Good morning. Welcome back, folks. Monday again. I am just heading down to get a few things from the shop. It's lunchtime. I've done a solid morning of work and I'm looking forward in this blog to sharing how to get started in PR, because I guess it's always that first step that's the hardest, isn't it? It's always thinking, where do I even start with a new project or something new that you want to focus on in your business. So yeah, we're going to delve into how to get started in PR. What are the first actions that you can take? So stick around for that. I've been working hard this morning, sorting things out, pitching for clients, following up on conversations that I had at the end of the week. This week's actually quite busy and I'll try and take you along for some of it. I am speaking at an event on Wednesday, a panel event for lots of women in business, and then on Thursday I've got a book launch event that one of my clients is holding for the launch of her new book. So I've been helping her get on some podcasts. We've got a press release ready to go out after the launch once we get some nice pictures, etc. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we've actually got a bank holiday this weekend. Friday and Monday the schools are off here, so which usually puts me neither up nor down, but I'm actually looking forward to this one because we're going away for a few nights further up north in Scotland, so looking forward to a wee trip. Just a wee change of scenery. I've had my head down working very, very hard, I must admit, for the last probably month or so. So it'll be nice to just get a change of scenery, get away from my desk for a few days in my flat. So yes, this afternoon I have got a LinkedIn call with someone that I'm working with on LinkedIn content to help me with mine, because it's something that I'm a bit behind on and I don't probably give as much attention as I should. And then I've got a call with someone who wants to talk about their PR, just and potentially if I can help them in the future. I think it is one for further in the future, but anyway, we'll see where it goes. I do have a new client signed up last week who's going to be starting in July, so still very, very busy, still quite happy with the clients that I've got, etc, etc, so it's all good. Right, I'm going to go and get what I need from the shop and then carry on with my day, but stick around and let's talk about how to get started in PR. Okay, so we are going to delve in and talk about how to get started in PR. I guess probably one of the first things to address and cover off is what even is PR, as it's one of those things that it's a bit of a grey area between PR and marketing. But I guess the way I look at PR is, versus marketing anyway, is marketing is a lot of the time telling people how good you are, how good your product is, why they should buy it, why they should come to you, whereas PR usually involves somebody else shining a spotlight on what you do. So for me, I mean, if you go on TikTok or, you know, some of these other social media channels, you would think that PR is about unboxing and gifting and being on red carpets. And I think in this modern day, you know, PR age that we're in, that probably is the case, that it does encompass some of these things. But for me, for business, PR really involves three main things. It involves getting featured in the media, it involves being interviewed on podcasts, and it involves speaking on stages. And those three PR activities, if done well and if done regularly, can massively boost your reputation, your credibility, your profile, and your business. And when you are appearing in the media, that, you know, media publication is basically telling its readers that they've selected you in your article to put in front of them. So they're shining a light on you. They're giving you already a bit of a platform, and that puts you on a higher level in some readers' eyes. When you're a podcast guest or a speaker at an event, you know, that podcast host or the event organizer is basically telling their audience that you are somebody that they will benefit from listening to. So
That's where PR comes into its own, when someone else is shining a light on the things that you're saying and the things that you are doing. And when you couple it with marketing, because it works best in that way, when the two complement each other, then that's when it's a lot more powerful. So I guess where to start with PR, for me, number one would be figure out what you want to talk about. Figure out what you want to say. What do you want to be known for talking about? Because that could become your thing over time. And a key element of PR is being consistent and talking about the same things over time so that you become known for talking about those things. So, I've got a client who talks about North Star thinking, people finding their North Star, their purpose, their mission. He's known for that. I had a client who was an expert in motivational intelligence, and he was known for that. I'm known for PR. I'm one of those people who, I've got PR in my name almost. People call me Lindsay Reid PR when they're talking about me. So it's like, what do you want to be known for? And what do you want to talk about that you feel you can contribute something impactful, something helpful, something that you already know about, and just something that you feel you can share that will help other people. So play around with that, think about that, but the key thing is, what do I actually want to talk about in my PR, when I'm in the media, when I'm on podcasts, and if I'm speaking on a stage, what content would that involve? The second thing, I guess, would be a kind of sidestep a little bit, but making sure that you've got your social channels set up. Make sure they're populated, make sure they look current, because if you start reaching out to media, or, well, more so podcasts probably, and events, if you wanted to speak at events, the first thing they're probably going to do is go and visit your socials to see your following, to see your engagement, your sort of, how often you post, the kind of content you post, all that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that when, if your pitch works and you drive people to look at your socials who might want to have you on their podcast or in their event, that you then have something on there, on those socials, that backs up everything you've said in your pitch, because it just doubles down on giving them the impression that you want to give them, that you're a great person to have on their podcast or on their event. The third thing I would do, and I do this for clients every time I start with a new client, is basically write down a huge big list of themes that you can tap into. So, for example, with the client that I mentioned, who was an expert in motivational intelligence, it sounds like a bit fancy pants, but basically that meant that he could talk obviously on specifics, podcasts or anything that were around motivational intelligence, but he could also talk about business, he could talk about leadership, he could talk about running a business, because he was also an entrepreneur, so he could talk about entrepreneurship. He had a family business, so we could tap into family business podcasts. He lived in Scotland, so we could tap into Scottish podcasts. So hopefully you get what I'm meaning there. If you can list a whole load of themes of things that you can tap into when it comes to podcasts or events, then it means that you've got tons of scope. I had a client, I've still got a client actually, who is an expert in financial freedom. So he can talk about, of course, financial freedom, he can talk about personal finance, he can talk about investing, trading, he can talk about building a business, earning more money, but he can also talk about things like being alcohol free, and he's been on alcohol free podcasts. He can talk about being a parent, because he's a parent, so he's been on parenting podcasts. You can tap into lots of different themes that still allow you, and this is important, to come back to your original sort of main niche. So they have to tie some way into that and give you an opportunity to talk about that, because that's the whole point of what you want to be known for. So I just want you to take from this that there's probably way more themes that you could tap into than you're probably thinking about, and then you just work your way through them when you're looking for different opportunities. I guess the fourth thing that I would say is, out of, media, podcasts, and, events and speaking gigs, pick one to get started on. Don't try and do all three at once. Just try and pick one of those And I would probably suggest podcasts, like being a guest on podcasts is a great way to get some hopefully quick wins. And there's just so many benefits about podcasts, as I have shared in a previous video, which I will put here for you to go and find. Yeah, I would start with podcasts out of those three if I was starting from scratch, because I think there's probably the most opportunities there, and anyone can just pitch to podcasts. And if you're talking about what you can bring to the table, what you're good at, etc., then there's no reason why somebody wouldn't want you on their podcast. So I would just pick one, do it well, and really work on, trying to get yourself some success on that channel before you move on to the other channels as well. So it just makes it a bit more focused. And I guess the fifth thing is to then at that point start researching opportunities. Use your themes that you've listed, that big list of themes that you've got from point 3. Make sure you're just working your way through them, using them as keywords almost to search podcast opportunities, events around that theme, media, even journalists that write about those things, or publications that relate to some of the things that you can talk about. Start researching and write a big list of all the different people you could be reaching out to in whatever chosen channel it is that you have decided to focus on. And then once you've got that list, once you've tracked down contact details, etc., it's a case of getting out there and pitching yourself. And I'm not going to go into that today. I've done a couple of videos which I will put up here. One on podcast pitching and the framework that I use to get my clients on podcasts. So I'll put that up. And also the other one is how to get featured in the media, which would be useful if you were choosing to go down the media route as well. So if you can do those 5 things, and then move on to learning about the pitching and just get out there and do it. Honestly, please remember, if there's anything you take away from this video, that the people you see in the media, the people you see getting interviewed on podcasts and speaking on stages, a lot of them have got that opportunity because they've put themselves forward. They've pitched themselves, or someone else has, but a lot of them have pitched themselves for that opportunity, and that's why they're on that stage or on that podcast. Because too often I think we think, oh, they must have got invited, or they must know somebody that invited them onto that event, stage, or whatever. And that's not always the case. Probably more often than you would think, people have got those opportunities because they've put themselves forward, and they're no different to you, except they're doing it and you possibly are not yet doing it. So get out there, pitch yourself, get yourself all ready to start, follow these steps, and then get out there and get pitching. Good morning, it is Friday morning. It's quite early, I think it's about 6:45, and I have been busy this week. It's been a really busy week. A good week, but everything's been condensed because I was at an all-day event on Wednesday, and today's Friday, and it's actually a school holiday, and we're going away for a few nights. So it's a short week and I've had a lot to fit in. So when I've not been out, I have just been literally on my laptop, working, pitching, arranging things for clients. I've got a client recording a podcast today. I had a client record a podcast yesterday as a guest. I've been putting together a press release for, 2 clients actually. I've got press releases going out next week, so one was already written, been just tweaking that one to make sure everybody's happy with it. What else? I sent out a press release for a charity that I work for, so we got a little bit of coverage with that, which is good. Yeah, it's been all go. But it's been a good week.
I'm about to head out my walk. I'm going to get a walk. I'm going to get some coffee. Then I have got a few emails to send this morning. I've got a little bit of editing to do for this video. And then I need to just gather all my stuff together, get everything ready and head off for a long weekend. So hope it's been a useful video. PR is not rocket science and you can do it yourself. You don't need to hire a PR like me. Obviously, if you can afford it, it probably would be beneficial to have someone who knows what they're doing, who's been doing it for years, who's got contacts, etc. However, I do think that you can get out there and pitch yourself and get results just from being persistent and just from being you and sharing what you can bring to the table. So get started and good luck with it. And I shall see you in the next video.